Yakako, thank you for joining us for this important severe weather update. Governor Josh Green, Honolulu Mayor Rick Blangiardi, and state and county emergency management officials will provide an update on the Kona Low 2 weather event affecting the state of Hawaii. Facilitated questions and answers with media will follow promptly after remarks conclude. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome Governor Josh Green.
Aloha, everyone. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being with us. Just want to make a couple overarching points before we dive into some details. First of all, let me say thank you. Thank you to everyone across the state for being responsible, for taking this storm seriously, and it is a serious storm, as Mayor Blangiardi and others have pointed out from the get-go. This is a major threat to our people and to our state, and your responsible behavior has made it easier for us to respond. So again, from my heart, thank you. A couple big points right off the bat. This is the largest flood that we've had in Hawaii in 20 years, the largest flood since the flood in Manoa back when we had the enormous rains back in the early 2000s. 196 people have been rescued through the heroic efforts of city and county leadership, the firefighters, our team with General Logan. Haima has been extraordinary. Everyone's worked together. The National Guard has been out there. Our military, active military duty has been there for us, and citizens everywhere have been taking care of each other. That's what you do in Hawaii. That is what we are as an ohana. That's why people have not died. And I have to proudly report that there have, to our knowledge, been no fatalities and no unaccounted for individuals so far. That is an amazing feat, and as I hear the stories from the Coast Guard and from Haima, from everyone, there have been rescues in all different places across our state and particularly our county on Oahu. So great credit to the work of Mayor Blangiardi and his team and all of you. Another thing I want to tell people is this is going to have a very serious consequence for us as a state, though we have support. We are now beginning to contemplate the reality that this storm could cost over $1 billion of damage in both the private and public sector. And that includes things like damage to the airports, a major hospital that's been damaged on Maui, which we'll talk about, lots of damage at schools, roads, and then, of course, the innumerable events that have happened at people's homes where they've lost structure and it will have to be repaired. But I am happy to report that my chief of staff spoke to the White House today, and they are offering their assurance that we're going to have support. The same can be said of FEMA. They've been with us from the beginning, as they were with us in the fire and before. We have support, and we will come through this together. Now let me dive into a couple slides. First, I'd like to say is that this is still a serious storm. We'll go into that first slide if you don't mind. We have a flood warning in effect on Oahu through 8 p.m. today. And statewide, we have a flood watch all the way through Sunday at 6 p.m. The storm is not over. As everyone knows, we had very, very serious rains last night. And when these bands of rain come through, they can spike challenges to our system. We have evacuation orders still in place for Waialua and Haleiwa. Again, it's very serious. People should not try to sneak back into their homes. We don't know how serious the storm could come again in the middle of the night. We're still anticipating significant rain, and we'll go through that in a moment. The evacuation warnings also have been given to us for parts of Lahaina, Kihei, Iao Valley, Hana, and East Molokai. The storm is going there next. It's going to be very significant. We'll look at that rain too. And there are shelters and assembly areas all across the state that make it safer for us to be out of our homes if the storm is really surging and there are floods in our area. Shelters and assembly areas can be seen at ready.hawaii.gov. And there you can look at that picture, that graphic, and you can see clearly what the larger impact is, the largest impact on the North Shore. Let's go to the next slide, please. So this is a way you can see the weather outlook color-coded. The purple is the worst space. That's where the extreme flash flooding is due to affect us here on Oahu. We will get these slides to everybody and we'll put them on the website so you can see in a transparent way just the way we're dealing with this storm. But you can see that, again, it's severe tonight. Last night, for example, over the course of 6 hours, we saw a 5-inch increase at the dam. So rain got very heavy, and that's when the water surged. I'm going to show you a slide on how that happened. But that's the kind of thing we're watching out for. You've seen pictures, of course, on social media. You've seen reports. The news has been excellent in their coverage, and we thank you guys for doing that. but you've seen in different parts of our town, it looked like people could practically surf in some of our roads and highways. Don't do that. Stay at home. But you can see the impact of that weather, and the water can surge very quickly. That's what flash floods are all about. So as you can see that tonight we're most worried about Oahu, but we do also have potential flash flooding in isolated places on Maui. The storm will move. It will continue to move over to the east, and then it will be more significant on Maui and then ultimately Big Island in the coming days. But right now, we're focused tonight on Oahu mostly. Let's go to the next slide so you can see what we've been talking about as far as dams. The reason that we evacuate certain areas, like Waialua and Haleiwa Town, and where the camp is because you could see also the impact on the dam. Now, there's been a lot of talk about Wahiawa Dam. There have been things written about it, and there's been some discussion about what is an imminent threat to a dam. Well, this is a serious storm, and the waters went up very quickly. Look at this graphic. At 11 p.m. last night, the waters were at 79 feet. Keep in mind, this dam goes up to 90 feet, okay? 90 feet. But long before you get to 90 feet, you have big concerns. Over the course of just a few hours, like I shared, it went from 79 feet up to 84 feet. So from 11 p.m. yesterday to 4:30 a.m., we went up to 84 feet. And you know by now that we start evacuating when we get to levels like that. We can't have the water go over the top of the dam, erode it, and God forbid threaten it. At 85 feet, that's when we typically evacuate the areas in and around that dam, because a catastrophic change in the dam would flush water that would be not consistent with people surviving if they were still in the community there. Now, the good news is, look at the far side of that curve. Now to 3:30 p.m. over the course of the day, even though we've had some significant rain, the dam waters have only been now at 82.68 feet. So we have some room to breathe. But if we had another night like last night, the water will go up again. Why did it go up so quickly? As very well explained by the mayor earlier, the land is saturated. When you have that kind of saturation, there's not as much water that can be absorbed, and so it all flows into these areas. And that's why you see such flooding, and that's why we're seeing damage. Again, take a good look at that slide. We're in a downward trajectory for now, but if we get very heavy bands of rain tonight, we will, of course, share that with you in real time. We will, again, alert people how dangerous it is. But still, we are under evacuation. Let's go to the next slide. You're going to get more information on the weather, but this is some indication of how bad this storm is. You can see how Oahu has been pummeled. There are many indications that we've had 6 to 8 inches of rain in a lot of different places. That's a 3-day rainfall forecast, but some places have already seen 10, 11, 12 inches in different areas across Oahu. That's why some places have had much more severe flooding than others. Also, we're going to still get some rain. You can see also in the next slide what it looks like potentially through Sunday night. And it gets even heavier. There's Maui. And now Maui has had a lot of challenges. We've already had one hospital forced to close and move a lot of patients. 99 patients in long-term care have been relocated to other facilities. There are parts of Maui that will get 8 to 10 inches. There are parts that will get 10 to 15 inches of rain. And because it's very difficult to absorb some of this water and even the impact of the recovery from the Maui wildfire, there's not a lot of drainage that can be contained. And so we're very careful, and we'll be on our toes with Mayor Bisson about how to respond. You can also see on Molokai, there's areas that will get 10 to 15 inches of rain. So everyone, please be very careful and really watch when we ask you to move if it's necessary, because some of this flooding will not be consistent with staying in your homes. And then you can see the 3-day forecast over to Big Island, and we're hopeful. We're hopeful that the rain will not be as severe on Big Island, but we'll keep you updated as the storm gets over there. Again, all the mayors have been extraordinary. They've been helping one another. They've been sending team members from island and county to other areas when there's been extra need, when the impact of their storm has passed them. Many thanks to the mayor from Kauai for doing that. Let's go to the next slide. Some shelter information. A lot of people can't be at home, and so that's why we have these shelters available. Ewa Beach at the Salvation Army Kroc Center, Nanakuli at the Nanakuli High and Intermediate School, Wahiawa at George Fred Wright Wahiawa District Park, Kihei. We have needs certainly coming on Maui at South Maui Community Park Gym, Kihei Community Center also. In Hana at the Hana High School Cafeteria, Lahaina Civic Center, where a lot of people have found refuge in the past during that crisis from the fire, and then in Wailuku at Baldwin High School. It's important that you know where to go if things get more dangerous. We'll keep giving you updates as much as we can in real time. Another program I want to mention tonight, let's go to the next slide if you don't mind. We've spoken to some of our hotel people who have always stepped up when we've had crises, and I want to thank them. So we've asked for a Kama Aina rate in case people can't be at their home and can't be at a shelter, or they choose not to be at a shelter. So they're going to offer some kind of Kama Aina rate. It looks like $191 a night. That's probably a 60 or 70% discount from what otherwise would cost. That's so they can keep paying their staff to come in. They're going to have to staff up the hotels. But at these hotels, Moana Surfrider, Outrigger Waikiki, Outrigger Waikiki Paradise Hotel and Beachcomber, also at the Beach Resort, the Royal Hawaiian, Sheraton Princess, Sheraton Waikiki Beach Resort, and Waikiki Beach Marriott, plus others that will come online. You can just go there to a website. It's at ready.hawaii.gov. Once again, if you want to go spend a couple days there, it's okay. You know, we want people to recover, and if you can't be near your home, this might be an option for you. Next slide. A couple other links before we go to our experts. Again, if you have to sign up for local emergency alerts, go to ready.hawaii.gov. If you have to get additional resources or information from the National Weather Service, go to their weather website at weather.gov/HFO. We have road closures and travel disruptions that are constantly being updated. That's hi.hawaii.gov. A couple other things that have happened that are very positive. We're already raising funds for our recovery, and I want to commend Hawaii Community Foundation, who has launched the Stronger Hawaii Fund, hawaiicommunityfoundation.org. Those monies will go to nonprofits, directly to nonprofits to help people survive. Also, everyone should know that the Hawaii Red Cross is always there for us, and so you can support them or the Salvation Army by going again to the website and go to ready.hawaii.gov. I appeal to people across America. You love Hawaii. We know that. You were there for us when we had the wildfire. You were there for us when we were concerned about the tsunami, and we broadcast from this room. And we know you'll be there for us as we deal with these floods. We're going to continue to update you. We're going to keep Hawaii intact. We're going to first care for our people, but there will be a lot of recovery that's necessary. So that's what I wanted to share with you. Again, we will give you updates as needed. We're heading into the weekend. Stay very safe. Please stay very safe. Heed these experts and their warnings. We're going to go to our mayor here in a moment. But as I said before, thank you. Thank you from my heart for being safe, for taking these warnings in stride, because the most important thing to us is that we don't lose loved ones. That's absolutely the most important thing. We will rebuild people's homes. We will rebuild bridges and roads, but we can't replace our loved ones. So be safe these next couple of days. We'll be there for you. Aloha.
Mahalo, Governor. Up next, we will have Mayor Rick Blangiardi via Zoom.
First of all, I want to start off with the governor started today, which is offer my sincere thanks to everybody in our community across the island who is taking heed, if you will, to our warnings and taking good action. I especially want to thank our first responders who are working tirelessly around the clock. The governor reported 196 people have been rescued from extreme conditions. The fact is, in just the last hour, because we got that information an hour ago, we're now up to 233 people. And let me give you some context for that. On any given day, if you woke up and you saw a headline that said 37 people rescued from treacherous conditions, that in and of itself would be a wow factor. That's 37 people just in the last hour. We're up to 233 people. That's how fluid and how dangerous this situation is. Now, my concern is that on Oahu, in a very short amount of time since last night, we've had 10 to 14 inches of rain. And the projections are, right now, for an additional 6 to 8 inches of rain to follow between now and probably the next 48 to 72 hours. The challenge here is that the amount of saturation that we have in our waterways and on our ground makes it very treacherous, because every one of those inches now compounds itself. It has a runoff factor. That only adds greater to the flooding, it adds greater to the runoff water, and so, we're probably about halfway through. And halfway through, we have people saying all over Oahu, this is the worst they've ever seen. And as I just said, 37 people in the last hour rescued from treacherous, dangerous situations. So I am not an alarmist. We want everybody to feel safe. We are in the business of protecting lives. I share in the governor's pride, and for all of us, that nobody has died yet, and we don't want anybody to die. But please, as I watch news video all day long and seeing people driving through deep water, we have said countless times, do not do that. If you can get to a safe place, stay there, okay? Just take this storm and just take it as seriously as you can. We don't want to lose anybody. As the governor just said, we're already dealing with over $1 billion worth of damage. You know, it's tough enough. But we need everybody to stay safe. And if you're not, please get to a place. We have shelters open. We're prepared right now, just so the public knows, if the situation warrants, to open up any and all shelters wherever needed to do whatever we can for our public. We're there to protect you, but you have to help us protect you. So with that, I want to bring up John Braverman, who's our National Weather Service meteorologist, to follow me. I just want to say it again. Mahalo to all of you who are taking this storm seriously. Please, don't endanger your lives. Don't endanger your loved ones. Listen to us. You know this is very real, and we'll get through this. God bless you all.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the opportunity to talk here. It's been a very, very active, very wet past couple of weeks. On top of the heavy rain and damaging floods that we had last week, having this rain come so quickly on that exacerbated flooding. Like the mayor said, 10 to 14 inches that fell, actually a lot of that fell within just a few hours last night, caused the significant rises in the rivers and reservoirs, damaging floods. That caused so much flooding with the ground as saturated as it is. All the rain that fell went directly into runoff. So as any more rain falls with the ground saturated as it is, we'll see very fast responses to rivers, very fast responses to reservoirs. So we need people to be aware of their hazards. Know if you're near a stream, know if you're in a flood zone, and if we put a warning out, take action. If you don't have to travel, don't. Stay off the roads. If you're in an evacuation area, listen to advice from emergency management. If you're told to go, get out as soon as you can. Don't wait. And as the mayor mentioned, don't drive through water. The phrase we use, turn around, don't drown. If you see water standing over a roadway, you don't know how deep it is, and you don't know the integrity of the roadbed below it. So let's keep everybody safe during this event. Don't drive through hazardous conditions. Follow evacuation information. And as we go into tomorrow and Sunday, know that there is greater rain coming. So be aware of that. Know how you'll get information. As the governor mentioned, the information available through the ready.hawaii.gov websites. Sign up for that and know what to do when those warnings are issued. Thank you. And I'd like to welcome up Tony Koimatsu from the DLNR Dam Safety Division.
Thank you, John. So the 122 regulated dams in our state have been tested the past 2 weeks, and all operated as designed. But a few on Oahu were tested to their design limits with the volumes of rainfall experienced, and all survived and performed as designed. But we're not out of the woods yet. So state, federal, county agencies, and emergency responders are going to work together and work with the dam owners to monitor the dams and mitigate risk. So I'm going to hand it off now to Major General Steve Logan.
Aloha. Hey, Governor Green extended last week's Kona low storm emergency proclamation until about the middle of next month, or April 13th, which enabled the Hawaii National Guard to posture personnel and equipment in all 4 counties. Coordination has been continuous with county, state, active duty military, and federal partners. We've activated 195 soldiers so far and airmen so far to respond to this storm. Due to the event's severity, I increased our posture. This increase will provide greater command, control, and response capabilities. About 200 guardsmen remain activated statewide to support ongoing operations and provide assistance where needed. And that number will increase with the Joint Forces establishment. Currently, we postured 21 high water vehicle teams throughout the state to have that ability to traverse water depths of up to 36 inches. 13 of these are arrayed throughout Oahu, 5 on Maui, 3 in Hawaii County, and 1 on Kauai. Concurrently, the 25th Infantry Division up at Schofield Barracks deployed one of those same high water vehicle teams to Aikahi Fire Station because we had a team there, but they had to be deployed to help with the evacuation below the dam. And so I'll cover that a little bit later. They're also postured with other high water vehicle teams, a quick reaction force, and some Zodiac boats should the need arise. And we're in very close coordination with our active duty counterparts through our defense coordinating officer. Using these high water vehicle teams, the Hawaii National Guard evacuated or rescued about 50 residents of Haleiwa and Wailua beginning at about 2:30 this morning. This afternoon, 3 Hawaii National Guard Black Hawk helicopters rescued 32 keiki and 15 adults who were camping during spring break. 2 canines were also rescued, and they were isolated due to the flooding and could not be reached with ground vehicles. Overnight, we're going to continue to monitor. We'll have a physical presence at the Wahiawa Reservoir with one of those same high water vehicle teams. Tomorrow, on Oahu, we're going to continue to assist the city and county of Honolulu with the door-to-door search and rescue operations throughout the impacted North Shore communities. On Kauai County, we're working with the Kauai Emergency Management Agency, and we're postured and ready to support also. On Maui County, doing the same thing, and we're also working on medical transport from the Kula Hospital, which the governor mentioned just a few moments ago. And on Hawaii County, we're also fully postured there. Our own Hawaii Emergency Management Agency is at full activation and has really been going hard from last week's storms all the way through to today. That's all I have. I'll be followed by the Department of Transportation, Mr. Ed Sniffen.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. The DOT has been really busy over these past couple of days trying to make sure we prep for the storm and then addressing the storm as it comes through. We're dealing with flooding in significant areas. It's actually easier to tell you where we're not dealing with it than it is to tell you the locations that we have. But in general, it's the Wailua, Haleiwa sides, Waimanalo sides, Haula, Kaava, and Laie. In those areas, we have significant flooding that's occurring. When we have flooding and it's still raining, all we can do is try to divert the water to drains, make sure we clear those drains out and try to get that water to move. We cannot start pumping in those areas until the rain stops. I know that there's a lot of communities that are hoping for us to come out and try to help them stop their areas from flooding. When it's raining and when the water is moving in those directions, there's nothing we can do until that rain stops other than divert the water in those portions. As everybody had recommended before, do not drive through moving waters and deep waters. We see a lot of vehicles on the side of the road or in the middle of the road left behind because people tried to chance them through 36 inches of water without having the right vehicles. Let's not do that. I mean, when you come up to water in those areas, just turn around and find a safe place to go. We're also dealing with landslides throughout the island, the biggest ones of which are at Waimea. It's been stabilized already, but we're also looking at 3 other landslide areas just along that route. Kipapa Gulch, we have more rock falls coming in that area, Aulua Road and Quarry Road areas on the windward side. In those areas, when we have those slides, we try to clear that debris when it stops raining. If it's still raining and there's driving weight on those slopes, if we start clearing it, we do have the potential of bringing more material down. So our crews are staged in those areas, making sure they're ready to move it, to make sure that they move it at the right time. On landslide areas, once we move it, if more rain comes down, as the governor and mayor had talked about, because there's no place for that water to go, it brings more material down. So we always try to make sure we clear it as much as possible and keep it as stable as possible. Just know when you're driving, you should be able to, you should drive at a speed that you can stop at just in case you run into something. Throughout the island, we have debris all over the roads. Our crews, during the breaks in the bands, are going through those routes to clear things out. Right now, they're on the North Shore side, trying to clear those out and pull the debris out of the streams. We're continuing to run through the islands. You may not see them when you want to see them, but we have 12 crews out there and 4 contractor crews that are helping throughout the island. Really appreciate some of the communities getting out there with their own equipment, removing debris in different areas to help their communities. Awesome job. Just be safe when you do it. On the airport side, airports are all running as business as usual. That being said, before you go to the airport, always call your carriers. Those carriers in areas where visibility is low, they may start to reroute flights or delay them. Want to make sure that before you head to the airport, you check in to make sure your flights are either on time or actually going to go. At the airport, if when you come in, make sure you're there 3 hours ahead of your Trans-Pacific flight or 90 minutes ahead of your inter-island flight, just to make sure to give yourself enough time. Thank you very much.
Mahalo, Director Sniffen. I'd like to invite the governor back up, and we will proceed with the media question and answer. And first up is Victoria with Honolulu Star Advertiser.
Hi, just to start off with clarification, the numbers that Major General mentioned, the number of people that were rescued, was that part of the 233 that Mayor mentioned?
Yes. So co-participated with some of the Hawaii National Guard crews, and of course the city and some of the state law enforcement entities did their own rescues.
And then with the dam, are there any structural concerns, or is this purely a capacity issue? I guess, like, was there a logistical reason that the state did not pump out the dam water, knowing that there was a storm coming? I don't know if this is for a governor or for DLNR.
Why don't we let dams address that if they're still there? If we can bring up the feed with the mayor.
Question was, knowing the storm was coming, why didn't we pump out the dam ahead of time?
So we alert our owners, dam owners, of the incoming weather and storm, and some will opt to lower their levels. Others, however, will decide, what is best for the reservoir and for the safety of being able to operate safely. So short answer is yes. Some will pump down, some will not.
I have not been informed of any structural damage, and I'll ask our experts to confirm that. Any structural damage, for example, at the Wahiawa Dam. The concern has been that if the dam overflows, that then it begins to become less stable. That's why we're very, very careful to make sure we evacuate as those waters go up. There was some conversation about whether or not there could be an imminent collapse or damage. The truth is, we were just watching very carefully as the water rose quickly. So I think that speaks to the first part of the answer. And maybe we'll get confirmation about structural integrity of the dam for now.
All the dams performed as designed. None of them failed. A few had come close to overtopping, but as the design, they were able to compensate and overcome and survive the rain volume that they experienced.
In truth, the reason we're so careful is because it would be that first time. If a dam ever gave way, if we were unlucky, if an unbelievable surge of rain came and overwhelmed us, that would be the time where if we hadn't evacuated, we'd have loss of life. So that's why we're very careful about this, and we'll give people constant updates about the heights of the dam and if we ever see any kind of integrity problem.
In conversation with NWS, it seemed like it was hard to predict that this storm was going to be as big as it was. How prepared were we for this storm, especially since, last week we saw a lot of damage?
We'll bring up David.
Great. Thanks for the opportunity about the preparation for this. We are in a very wet pattern. And with the atmosphere that we have, we're seeing very intense rainfall rates. A lot of rain that falls in a short period of time. Going into this, for the second round, I forget what we were talking about for the highest rainfall totals. We're looking at maybe 10 to 14 inches over a 3-day period, and it fell in one night. So we got some very heavy rainfall rates last night that caused a lot of this flooding. And that's been the challenge. How much, not just how much rainfall amounts have fallen, but how heavy the rain was. And that's something that we're looking going forward as well for the next 48 hours, is not just the total rainfall amounts, but how fast it falls down and in what short period of time.
Another consideration, just so people know, is the wind patterns. In the first Kona 1, we had heavy winds that were moving these storms, and that, of course, was an additional threat. In some cases, when these bands of rain kind of stall over a certain area, that's when additional inches of rain, come. And it's that saturation point, which is also very hard to predict. going forward, we're going to always be ready. As you can see, we were evacuating people pre-dawn, we're running sirens pre-dawn. Even that's a difficult call. It's a judgment call because you also don't want to put people in harm's way. It's difficult, as Ed was pointing out earlier, you don't want people driving through water, but if it's in the middle of the night, it's in the dark, it's hard if you're evacuating. So we have to make these judgment calls over and over again, and that's why I'm so grateful to have the support of the mayors and these experts. We're going to tend to err on the side of caution because the last thing we ever want is to leave a community in place and then see one of these tragedies occur. As we've seen across the country, we have had dam failures in our state in the past, and it cost us lives. I believe on Kauai at one point years and years ago. So we'll be careful. I hope people don't think us alarmist, but the times that we've had to kind of close down the state, I believe that we've been proven correct, that we wanted to get people off the roads. Today, for example, we did not want to see a lot of people piled up on a Friday, late afternoon, as a big storm came through and people being trapped in the highways. So we make a lot of different judgment calls as we go.
Mahalo, Governor. Next question, Ashley Mizuo, Hawaii Public Radio. What is the plan for those impacted if the Wahiawa Dam overflows? Any idea how much damage it would cause?
Why don't we let Mayor make a comment if he'd like. It's his county, but it would be catastrophic.
Yeah, you know, and Governor, I'm not sure how to define catastrophic under these circumstances because we're already dealing with a lot of catastrophe. You know, that's a situation we just pray and hope will not happen. I go back to what Tony reported about the structural quality of our dams and the circumstances of where they really are right now. So I don't want to speculate or conjecture anything along those lines other than I can promise everybody we are doing everything we possibly can to make sure that that doesn't happen. Now, we may need a bit of a break from nature, but I'm not betting on that because nature has already surprised us. I took a lot of pride a week ago in getting out ahead of this storm, following things on radar screens. I think we communicated to the public we prepared people well. This one, in the last 24 hours, really caught us by surprise. What we were looking at yesterday on the Doppler radar screens did not indicate the 10 to 14-inch surge that we got and how much water was in there. So we're dealing with something that I know that meteorologists don't like to use the word unpredictable. We're dealing with something that's really unpredictable. And all we could do against that circumstances is to use every resource we have right now to try to minimize any catastrophic experience. So let's just pray that that doesn't happen. And I want to rely on the structural quality of the dams and just hope that we get through this.
Way to also look at these rainfall projections, just so people know, is we also look at what the 90th percentile probability of heavier rain is, and that gives us the higher end. If we fall into that 90th percentile, how much rain we would actually have additionally. And that's, begins to be the outlier. But when you get that outlier amount, that's when you deal with larger floods. We're always calculating that too. Suffice it to say that we first have to get everyone safe away from the communities beneath the dam. That's the most important thing. But if a dam ever went, like Wahiawa Dam went, you would see more damage than we've ever seen anywhere else in a part of our state. Those houses would be devastated. Everything would be devastated there. But the dam has been holding, as our experts have said. And right before, as you know, we were talking about where we got, and I'll tell you once again, we were down at 82.68 feet, and that was about 4 p.m. today, which is below even the threshold of concern that's at 85 feet. But we're being very careful because of the storm surge.
Governor, up next, Matthew Leonard, Civil Beat.
Thank you. Do we have an estimate of how many people are still in the updated evacuation zone currently, and how many people may be seeking shelter over the weekend?
The answer is we believe the majority of the population has been evacuated. I think the city and county might have better numbers since they've had more of their personnel that have been going through those residential areas.
Well, the only thing I can add is that the last number I had was we had under 100 people in shelters, but a lot of people have evacuated. And what has happened, and maybe that's been some of the travel we've seen on the road, is that people have informed us that they've gone to be with family in safer places, which is, a very local thing. I get that. I understand it. But hopefully people have gotten there now and we'll see less and less people out there. I said earlier in my comments, whatever the need will be from the standpoint of shelter and protecting people, if we have to step forward and provide those resources, we are prepared to do that, and we will do that. But right now, those numbers with respect to any demand on the shelters seems to be under control.
We've also made a couple, we're also thinking out a couple days in case these storms worsen, in case the shelters were ever not adequate, although they've been excellent. We've begun even early preparations just in case to have the convention center available if necessary. So we're always thinking a couple steps ahead just in case. Also, we're trying to decompress the pressure in communities and on family, and that's why hotels, which saw some cancellations because of these storms these last 2 weeks, had space in case people wanted to go there. So we try to give everybody as many options as possible.
There's a follow-up question for DLNR just on the Wahiawa Dam. Was Dole one of the dam owners that chose to pump water from the dam? I think you mentioned some owners were pumping water.
No, I'm sorry, what was the question then?
Tony, he said some people pumped and some people didn't, and he's curious as to who did or where that happened.
Okay, so for our dams that have pre-existing conditions, DLNR will impose limitations and restrictions on those dams, and those restrictions were enforced. But despite that, even with that, with the storm volumes that we saw, the levels did come up very quickly in a lot of areas. But the one thing that I didn't mention earlier was that each of our dam owners, they're required to have emergency action plans specific to their dams. And these plans are synchronized with the county emergency management team, with emergency responders, with DLNR, with National Weather Service. So, in fact, last year we had exercises to test these EAPs with the dam owners. And so when situations like this come up, we're prepared, and so it's for the dam owners, especially the dam owners. They know what they need to do.
Jill Korimoto, KHON2.
Thank you. In terms of emergency response, what was the plan to address residents who were impacted by the storm, such as the North Shore, to reach them when they don't have power, they don't have internet? How are you planning to address them or other communities that may face the same situation and let them know what needs to be done to evacuate, et cetera?
Well, I think one thing that people are very aware of, and I'll let General Logan also chime in, we have sirens, and we use them. And we not only use the sirens, but we have people that can go into the community and give people direct alerts. And then, of course, we ask people to follow the news and follow our updates and follow the alerts that they get on their telephones and all their devices. It is not perfect because when you lose infrastructure, you lose sometimes the capacity to communicate. That's why we communicate so consistently for so many days. So people see these storms coming and they see where the rain is going to be hardest hit in which community. So again, we have the ability to communicate with people a great deal, but sometimes when catastrophes strike, like when we had the wildfire, sometimes you lose telecommunications. And that's why you have to be ready in advance. We do our best to stay ready in advance, and that's why we have several days in advance of the storms where we're giving people updates about what could come.
Yeah, so the governor mentioned the sirens. It's kind of a multi-layer approach. The first responders also go through the neighborhoods, your police and your fire, and they urge residents to evacuate. There's also messaging that comes out through their either cell phone or things like that. They hear the siren. They should turn to the radio, and you have emergency messages that come out over the telecommunications network. So it's that I think is that layered approach that's able to combine together to try to reach all of the population.
General, you just nailed it, but it gives me an opportunity, if I can. I want to really acknowledge the Air National Guard. I've talked about our first responders, and sometimes we don't include them. But we had an incident today where we had some 72 people who were stranded in a camp on the North Shore, not the North Shore of Makaha, out near Waianae. And then we had to evacuate them. And the Hawaii National Guard using the helicopters really made that possible. We got everybody to safety. 2 people went to the hospital, but that in and of itself was an incredible rescue mission along with all the other things. But the sirens and our first responders going door to door and wireless technology, are very, very important in this equation. And so I just offer that as, it's not a fail-safe, but it's as much of a human effort as we can possibly make to make people aware.
Mahalo. Up next, again, Victoria, Star Advertiser.
Kind of piggybacking on that, so there were some reports that people on Wailua around that area said that they woke up to water but didn't hear the sirens till after. Was this something you guys were aware of?
The storm was extraordinarily dynamic throughout the night. We were making the judgment call when to actually evacuate. We actually evacuated a little bit earlier than we normally would based on the threat from the dam and the water at that level. But that was because of the hour, the time, what we started to see on the road. That was the decision then. There's little doubt that people knew when they went to bed that the rain was coming. But these storms are fierce. They seem to be a lot heavier than in past generations. Honestly, like I said from the get-go, this is the largest flood that we've seen in 20 years. Hopefully, this is, quote, a 20-year flood. We don't want a 100-year flood ever, and that's going to, be very impactful. We saw some floods that lasted, weeks. Hopefully, after the end of this weekend, we will have seen this pass, and we can, kind of restore normalcy to people. But again, it's good that people here in this hour in the evening know what we're facing. That's why we show the amount of precipitation we're expecting. And we will continue to give updates on what the higher probabilities are and also the outlier probabilities of how much rain we could get. Again, I think everyone is aware how much rain is going on and how much saturation there's been. So please be extra careful these next couple days.
Do you guys have the statuses of those who, I think you mentioned, got hypothermia?
To my knowledge, people have been stable medically. A lot of people went to Wahiawa General. I believe it was about 10 people early on with hypothermia. When you're out in the water that's just like 60 or 70 degrees, it causes hypothermia quite quickly. I believe 2 individuals were still receiving care at last notice. I have to say it's quite extraordinary that we haven't seen a lot of traumas on the road with accidents. That's a testament to people being careful and our emergency management folks and first responders really getting people places safely. So we're going to knock wood that none of those accidents or tragedies happen. We did have 2 very serious injuries in the first part of the storm, the Kona 1 storm, I believe on Big Island. One motorcycle rider and another person had a head injury. So 1 neck injury, 1 head injury. It's very dangerous to have those kind of accidents when it's hard to get to the hospitals. And so that's why it's good to, get into a safe place like the mayor said and stay there. And we will make sure that the waters aren't rising too much in those locations at our shelters and other currently safe areas.
And with concluding remarks with Mayor Blangiardi and Governor Green.
Sure. Thank you for the opportunity. I want to finish the way I started, thanking all of you who are doing everything you can to keep yourself safe. Thanking our first responders in the and Hawaii National Guard for really their heroic efforts. I'll say it again, 37 people in just an hour in and of itself would be a major story. This is how fluid it is. More than anything, I want to underscore, this is how dangerous it is. Please protect yourself, and we'll do everything we can to help protect you.
And then finally, to echo what the mayor said, look, everyone's been great. As the storm in the coming 24 hours begins to move off of Oahu, I think we have lessons that we already have learned here on Oahu. Please be very cognizant of them as we see the weather move over to Maui. We expect heavy rains that will probably also cause flooding, road damage like Director Sniffen pointed out, but we are postured, as our Adjutant General pointed out too, to be safe and to recover. But this is the time to get safe in advance. Prevention is the best thing we can do, and I think that is kind of the lesson of today. But again, you guys have been extraordinary. We'll give you all the information we can, but ultimately it's going to be our shared work to make sure our friends and neighbors are safe, that we don't take any risks. Aloha.
This formally concludes our news conference. E malama.